It has been reported that North Korea has sent 1,500 Special Forces troops to Russia, and this is going to increase between Special Forces and your conventional soldiers to around 10 to 12,000 over the coming weeks and months. These could possibly be used in Russian uniform, weapons and ammunition, and this could significantly prolong the conflict and cause a lot more issues around the world with a deepening alliance between North Korea and Russia. Welcome to Combat Ready HQ, where we're going to be discussing the issues of North Korea sending troops to Russia and whether they're going to get involved in the Ukraine and Russia war. If you want to stay updated with future videos, then please subscribe, and if you want to support the channel anymore, you can become a channel member and support us in other ways. But let's get into the video. We're going to go through approximately 5 points today to see how this can have a significant impact on the rest of the world. Number one, then, this could significantly prolong the conflict. The majority of you may know, but you may not, that Russia have taken a significant amount of casualties since the Ukraine and Russia war have started. It's been estimated they've taken approximately 600,000 casualties and fatalities since they've started, which is a huge number considering the British Army only has 72,000 strong regular personnel. They have gone from conscription, they've now drawn up and brought in convicts from prison to support the war effort, and from what I've read and from what I've seen and what we've heard, it looks like they're struggling, not just down with manpower, but also munitions, kit and equipment, artillery pieces, tanks, food, water, the lot.
New this morning, thousands of North Korean troops right now on the ground and training in eastern Russia. This is according to the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, speaking to reporters this morning.
Good morning, Kate. In terms of the numbers we're looking at here, a senior administration official says it's in the thousands. Of course, the U.S. trying to get a better handle on just how many soldiers there are moving from North Korea to Russia, and of course, what their ultimate goal is, that are moving North Korean troops from North Korea to Russia, and perhaps the training grounds as well, where these North Korean troops are receiving training.
It's been estimated they have lost approximately 9,000 and 8,000 tanks and artillery pieces since the war has started. So with North Korea coming in, bringing in manpower for them, this could also lead to them bringing in equipment. It could significantly prolong that war if Russia can continue to supply troops and equipment and munitions to the front line. This would then also increase the severity of the fighting on the front line, and you may have read as well, I believe Ukraine are starting to struggle as well with manpower. They're more of a democracy. They've brought in conscription, but it's got its own flaws and its own issues as well. Out the full backing of NATO, could we see a massive counter-offensive from Russia with these North Korean troops and these artillery pieces and equipment? It's definitely something that is a worrying issue with these troops going into Russia. Next then, which we don't really need at the minute, is increased global tensions. Tensions are high enough around the world with what's going on in the Middle East and in Europe. But with North Korea getting involved, this could then start with Western countries and European countries then stating that they may retaliate and get involved as well. As we know, Russia has threatened if anyone gets involved, he will then escalate. But with him bringing in North Korea and North Korean troops, could this then open a door for European and Western countries to then allow their own troops to go into Ukraine? Who knows? It's a possibility. And it's a worrying possibility because at the minute, the war, I say, is contained in Ukraine and in Russia. Yes, we've had equipment supplied to Russia from countries like Iran and possibly North Korea, possibly China. Ukraine have a hell of a lot of money and equipment from NATO, but with North Korean troops, if it gets proven that they have gone in my eyes, then opens a door that NATO are allowed to go in with their own troops without Putin obviously threatening the nuclear war. It's a very thin line Putin needs to be careful with, because at the minute he's saying this is between Ukraine and Russia, no one else is to get involved. But if you let North Korea allowed to come in, then what's stopping NATO from putting troops on the ground? This also just heightens tension around the world with North Korea getting combat sort of experience in the Ukraine war, with those troops going back to North Korea with combat experience. What does this for the tensions between North Korea and South Korea? South Korea obviously going to be on the back foot. They're going to step up their security and they're going to be sort of on alert. It's a worrying time. Tensions are high enough as it is. Hopefully North Korea are just currently in there just doing some training exercises, but from everything I've watched and read, it looks like they're going to be going onto the front line. Next then is arms exchange between Russia and North Korea. As I've said, Ukraine have had a lot of money, kit, equipment, munitions from NATO. Russia have supported themselves quite a bit. What this could allow then is obviously and show that there's a deeper relationship between Russia and North Korea than everybody thought. This could then allow North Korea to supply more artillery pieces, more missiles, more tanks to Russia to put onto the front line. But what it also could do, if possible, if Russia can expand and manufacture enough equipment, it could then also in the future allow Russia to then supply North Korea with more equipment if North Korea decide that they do want to push more into South Korea. Everything is sort of pointing to North Korea experience, combat experience, tensions are rising. It's pointing to them possibly wanting to push back into South Korea and start another war there. So we've got to be really careful with these alliances building. Yes, we know they're close allies, but this could show that North Korea could start getting involved and not just supplying manpower, but start supplying artillery pieces, tanks, ammunition, missiles, which once again goes back to point one, prolonging the conflict, making the fighting more intense and allowing Russia to put on a bigger counter-offensive. But what you could also look at is in the future, possibly, hopefully, fingers crossed, when the Ukraine-Russia war finishes, tensions between North Korea and South Korea are still very high. We all know that North Korea are always sort of testing and sort of pushing South Korea on the border. This could then allow in the future, if Russia can manufacture enough equipment again after the war, to then supply North Korea with bits of equipment to then go in and make an offensive against South Korea. So we've got to be really careful and keep an eye on this because it could work on both sides. Very, very scary at what's going on in the world. This deepening partnership is just going to sustain Russia's war effort into Ukraine. Number 4 then is North Korea's nuclear effort. We all know that North Korea wants to make nuclear advancements. There's been talks of them making missile tests, of them having nuclear sort of bunkers where they're sort of trying to advance and make nuclear missiles.
Thank you. Let's turn to Claire to discuss Russia and Putin. As Mark was saying there, Claire, I mean, a lot of this, as we know, is about the optics. We were talking yesterday that Putin is using this as a chance to glean legitimacy on the world stage at a time when he's becoming isolated from the West. And I think most in the West see this summit for what it is. However, there are some who take a different view. We were going to throw to a soundbite there from Donald Trump.
We know that Russia is quite advanced when it comes to sort of ground to air, air to air missiles and its nuclear advancement technology. So with this sort of partnership deepening, becoming stronger, is this a possibility that Russia are going to start sharing some of their weapon systems, some of their technology with North Korea for them to use against South Korea? It's something that really needs to be sort of considered and something we really need to worry about, because what then this is going to do once again is going to heighten South Korea. They're going to put out bigger defenses, and then that could start another North and South Korean war.
For the first time, senior U.S. officials confirmed that North Korea is sending troops to Russia. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin tells reporters this morning that it's unclear why they're there, but if they're sent to Ukraine to fight for Russia, Austin says it would be a serious issue and a sign that Vladimir Putin may be in, quote, even more trouble than people realize.
CNN's Oren Lieberman joins us now live from the Pentagon. And Oren, it was actually South Korea's spy agency that alerted the U.S. to this. What has the Pentagon been able to confirm thus far?
If they're co-belligerents, their intention is to participate in this war on Russia's behalf. That is a very, very serious issue, and it will have impacts not only in Europe, it will also impact things in the Indo-Pacific as well.
It also means that perhaps the North Koreans are getting some combat training potentially from the operations against Ukraine, and they could then potentially use that in a possible future conflict with South Korea.
This could also worry sort of South Korea and the West, and it could increase sort of military cooperation and operation within Ukraine with such countries like the US, UK and other countries from NATO starting wanting to put troops and boots on the ground and maybe put more advanced equipment. So, and the last thing we want is North Korea to sort of advance its nuclear sort of missile capability. Lastly then is international reactions. This is Japan, South Korea, China, all the Western and sort of NATO countries sort of looking at military strategies and seeing what they need to change and what they need to do to hopefully calm this situation down. Only takes for someone to get a little bit nervous and go, right, we're sending troops in, and then the war sort of just explodes. and then it starts expanding outside of Ukraine and Russia, and that is the last thing we want. What this could also do is countries such as China, knowing their alliance with North Korea and Russia, they could start in the background, start supplying more kit and equipment to North Korea and Russia, sort of intensifying and sort of sustaining their sort of fighting capability. We need to be really careful with what this partnership sort of means and what it looks like. The last thing we want is a mass international reaction. We already know that US are looking very closely into this. They're looking to see what North Korea and Russia do, and they're going to be very concerned on whether China are going to start getting involved a little bit more, whether Iran's going to start getting involved. It can start off as something small with only one country, but it can obviously expand. Yes, the Ukraine and Russia war isn't exactly what we want, but the last thing we want is other countries to start increasing their support and going from kit and equipment being supplied to troops being supplied, and it turns out into World War III. So then North Korea sending troops into Russia could significantly escalate the war and alter global dynamics. This move could bolster Russia's manpower, allowing for him to sustain a longer conflict and prolonged war within Ukraine. The North Korean and Russia partnership and alliance also defies international sanctions, and such cooperation could get other countries to pursue a more aggressive strategy against Russia and North Korea. Globally, it could provoke a stronger military response from NATO, South Korea and Japan, increasing tensions across Europe and Russia. This could then allow North Korea to gain more advanced equipment such as nuclear missiles, subsonic missiles, and even weaponry.